In your view, what would have happened if it had gone 12 rounds?
That's a good question. I mean, the fact is, I had Fury winning by 1 point, and the reason he was able to win on my scorecard 95-94 is because I had given him rounds 9 and 10. It was a much more worthy fight than I would have anticipated.
Welcome to the Battle of the Baddest podcast, episode 12. Well, we're all back from Riyadh now. Tyson Fury's home. Francis Ngannou is home. What an event. Tyson Fury won the big fight. Francis Ngannou still shocked the world. We'll pick over the bones of that and the undercard and an extraordinary week with more stars from the sports of combat world than you've ever seen amassed in one place. Lucy Wildheart, who's got an interim world title fight coming up, joins me in the studio. Frank Warren joins me by Zoom link, and Dan Rafael joins me from across the pond in the USA. All that and more coming up on this week's Battle of the Baddest. So welcome back into the studio for the Battle of the Baddest podcast. It's the final one in the series, episode 12. And joining me in the studio is none other than the wild woman herself, Lucy Wildheart. How are you, first of all?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very well.
You've got a Battle of the Baddest coming up very quickly, yourself in Dublin for the WBC interim world title against Sky Nicholson. Must be looking forward to that. When's that, late November?
Yeah, it's only 3 weeks away, 25th November, very soon.
Excited?
Very, yeah. I mean, not only it's going to be a great fight, it's going to be a great show. You know, undercard of Chantal Cameron, Katie Taylor, and it's the interim WBC world title, and I'm going to win it. I'm buzzing.
Absolutely, I bet you are. And this is when the dreams come true, isn't it?
Pretty much. Everything I worked for literally 10 years is literally coming down to this moment. It's a title, it's a show, Matchroom, it's the Sony, it's on the TV. Even Ireland,
it's going to be a packed arena, isn't it? It's going to be, you won't be able to hear yourself think when you walk to the ring.
Even better, I'm just going to be there and just soaking it all in.
Well, I've just come back from Riyadh, obviously, where there was the Battle of the Baddest. And one of the reasons I wanted to get you in today is that, obviously, say 10 years hard work, but you've come through different combat sports. And what we witnessed in Riyadh in the main event last weekend was a mixed martial artist in Francis Ngannou in his first professional fight, putting up an extraordinary performance against a very below par Tyson Fury. In your view, should we always be careful underestimating people crossing codes from different martial arts into boxing? Because you've done that yourself and now you're on the verge of a world title.
I think you should always respect other sports, whatever sport is. Even a football can be very quick on feet, and strong.
Were you surprised by Ngannou?
I was a little bit surprised, yeah, but at the same time, I know that man, he's strong, he's powerful. You can see Tyson Fury used to, lean on people, but he couldn't.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
He couldn't clinch with him because he knew clinch work as well.
And then Ngannou, he literally pushed the arms up and just punched him through the middle. It's like...
That's an MMA move. It's a clinch.
He is strong in clinch.
It's called dirty boxing in MMA, isn't it? It's called dirty boxing. It's the name of it. Yeah. Clinch work. I was surprised that Fury decided to clinch at all with Ngannou because he was always going to be clever in that respect. But he was very surprising, I thought, in terms of his cardio and how he actually boxed and switched between orthodox and southpaw as well. That was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, both of them, it looked like both of them, they was thinking a lot, weren't they? Like, try a little bit different things. And especially Ngannou, he's tried to feint early doors. And obviously they do that quite a lot in MMA as well. It's this a little bit holding back, feinting, waiting, and then try to jump on them. And I think this is makes it more difficult for Tyson Fury, because it's a little bit different, the boxing. Instead of this scoring points, you could see Ngannou, he needs to, up his game about scoring points. He didn't really have that.
Yeah. He had to go for the knockout. He had to go for damage, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he got it in the 3rd round,
Yeah.
and he got it in the 8th round. A massive assault in the 8th round when he had Fury in trouble again, and then he knocked him down in the 3rd. When someone's an underdog and they knock someone down like that, it gives them a huge lift. It gives a fighter a huge lift, doesn't it?
I think it will give anyone a huge lift. Yeah, I mean, especially the WBC heavyweight of the world as well. It's quite a big thing, I gotta say. But I wasn't surprised that.
Really, you weren't surprised, because you and I spoke in the build-up to it, and you've always said, from combat sports, that they're more unorthodox, and the shapes that are made by a traditional boxer are different to the shapes that are made by a mixed martial artist. There was no footage on Ngannou, for example, of him in previous fights. So in some ways, Fury didn't know what he was going to be up against.
No, and sometimes I think it might even be a little bit difficult to fight or spar against someone. They just do something in a complete different pattern that you're not used to. I mean, it makes sense. And also, I mean, you can see many people, even Ngannou, he has seen Tyson Fury, his fights. He knows what he's doing when he keep moving this, the jab goes a little bit
The herky-jerky style, the feinting, the herky-jerky.
Yeah, you can see it's like
he ignored it all, didn't he? That's what Ngannou did so well. He crouched, he got in position. Yeah. He just said, right, I'm rather like a great footballer with skills. If you ignore them and just watch the ball, you can tackle them. And he did that. He ignored Fury's kind of mystique, his magic, if you like, and he even went to the body, didn't he? Which is a big target. I thought it was a very clever performance, and I was based out there in his camp, in the residence where his camp were living, and they had a very, very good strategy, I think.
Yeah, did you speak with them?
I spoke to Dewey Cooper, I spoke to John Mabomba. Yeah. They practiced lots of things. The step in, go into the body. They had a very, very smart group. And they, of course, and I think this did help, they had the great Mike Tyson in the training camp as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just imagine that on its own.
That's magic on its own. It is, just to have Mike Tyson. He rubbed off on Ngannou, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can see. I was thinking, actually, it looks like Ngannou, he kind of want to have a little bit of that, attitude or attribute, and So, did you enjoy it out there?
It was amazing. It's the biggest event overall that I think I've ever been to. The fact that there were huge events every day, there was a boulevard as the grand arrivals that felt like the Las Vegas Strip. There was, the Legends dinner, the gala dinner on the Friday night was extraordinary. Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Larry Holmes, Amir Khan, Manny Pacquiao, and then from MMA, and loads more, Oscar De La Hoya and loads more. And from MMA, Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, Junior Dos Santos. It went on and on and on. It was an amazing experience, the whole thing. And even on fight night, the gala dinner it could have been an event on its own, and it was an event on its own. The fact it was opening Riyadh season, which is this extraordinary festival of music, film, culture, entertainment, sport. The fact that the event, the boxing event, had 2 arenas, and you had the whole undercard, and then you moved into the main arena, the stadium, the Kingdom Stadium, and there was an opening show of the Riyadh season with dancers and singers, and Lil Baby was there, Eminem was there. It was just Cristiano Ronaldo was there. I forgot him. There were so many people there, and it was brilliant to be in that environment, in that milieu. It felt enormous, Lucy.
Sounds unbelievable.
No, it was unbelievable. I've got back, and there was something unbelievable about it, like there was about the main event. It had something Rocky Balboa about it. Look at this guy, Francis Ngannou. There was a narrative in his life that something special like this was going to happen for him. We'll talk to Dan Rafael shortly, and we'll talk to Tyson Fury's promoter as well. And it looks like the next fight is Tyson Fury against Oleksandr Usyk. But I wouldn't mind seeing Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou again, because there's almost something to prove there. But Ngannou's stock has risen. We haven't mentioned the undercard. Some amazing young heavyweights. You know, you're in a women's sport that's developing at the moment. Moses Itauma looks so skilled. He's been on the Battle of the Baddest podcast, 18 years old. Arslanbek Makhmudov, Martin Bakoli, Joseph Parker, Fabio Wardley beating David Adeleye. All big heavyweight fights, all knockouts, all stoppages. You can imagine how it entranced the crowd, you know. But back to the main event. Does, in your view, Tyson Fury's performance change your view on how Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk plays out when they meet for the undisputed title for 4 belts?
I think I'm not sure how much Tyson Fury was training for this fight.
That's a very good point. That maybe he overlooked Ngannou.
Maybe, maybe not.
We don't know.
It's hard to tell, but I think he needs to, get a little bit more running in, do a little bit more training, because he needs to be quicker overall to fight, Usyk. I think so. Yeah. I think he's always going to have his style and try to be tricky, but Usyk is smart.
Before this fight, who did you see as the favourite out of Fury and Usyk to win that fight? Who did you think was going to win?
Usyk.
Do you think? And now after that fight,
still the same.
And what happens when Fury and Usyk fight then? In your view?
I think Usyk going to be in and out and just score points. I don't think it's going to be any stoppage. No, not at all. But be in and out and sideways and get to throw those arms that Fury has that is moving around. I think he can quite easily get around those arms.
So you see Usyk winning on points against Fury based on his brilliant boxing skills? Because I always felt that what Fury needed to do in the fight, it wouldn't surprise me, and it looks like they'll meet next year. It wouldn't surprise me if Fury is behind on points after 6 rounds, that it's maybe 4 rounds to Usyk, but then he's got to use his size and his reach and all those things to put it on, Usyk. Just watch this clip. This is what Lennox Lewis told me that Tyson Fury needs to do against Usyk, because this is what he would have done.
Would you have beaten Usyk in your prime?
Oh, that's such an easy question.
What would you have done to him then? Go on, what would you have done to him?
I would rush him. I would rush him and show him that he doesn't belong in my weight class.
Is Fury going to do that?
Now, Fury might do that because Fury has the weight and he knows how to use his weight. He's used his weight in the Deontay fights and it's worked for him. And he knows how to come forward throwing punches. And I don't think in this fight he's going to be going backward. He doesn't need to be going backwards. I'm talking about the Usyk fight. Doesn't need to be going backwards. He can go forward.
There you go. Put it on him. That's what he's saying. You put it on him. That's what he would have done, Lennox Lewis would have done, if he'd been fighting Usyk. Can Fury do that?
I suppose he can. If he in the early rounds, like the 4, 5, 6 first rounds, Tyson can, or Fury, he's moving backwards, he's leaning backwards, right? So, and he's tall and he's big, so it can be tricky for Usyk to sort of get in there and hit, and maybe hit the body, but even harder to sort of hit the head. But once a couple of rounds have gone, that's where he needs to be strong. Fury, he needs to be strong and push it. Maybe even try to go forward. You know what I mean? And put that weight. Now I don't like boxing where you put weight on each other, on this clinch, on this. It's rubbish.
No, you're a warrior. You like a straight up scrap. You like a fight.
No, I like a fight, but I like.
You like the skills, but
like personally, I do love the technical and the skill part.
I know you
But-
do, but you like to plant your
but-
feet and throw heavy shots. I've watched you
Yeah,
enough now.
if I have to, yeah, I do a little cuddle in there. I mean, but at the same time, it's a skill.
It is.
That's what I'm in
You love
boxing
the
for.
technique of the sport,
I
the
do, and
sweet science.
Yeah, that's why that's why you try to master. It's easy to throw heavy shots and stand there and bam, give and take. That's the easy part. Like that's like nothing every day. But yeah, no. So I mean, if you can use your weight, you should probably.
So you see Usyk winning on points.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think we saw a very, very poor Tyson Fury. I think he'll be embarrassed after that performance. He'll be feeling embarrassed that he was knocked down. I think he won on points by a couple of rounds. That's how I had it. At least a round, but maybe two. But his boxing skills over a guy that was making his pro debut, but not his pro debut as a fighter, made it sure that he did win the fight. On the eye test, if you weren't scoring it, it looked like Ngannou was winning the fight, because of what he managed to do during the fight. I think Fury, deliberately or not, and he said he didn't, somehow underestimated Ngannou, didn't realise what a hard night he was going to have, and thought he was just going to be able to keep him off and dominate him. And the other side of it is getting to 35. You don't know when people suddenly get old in the ring as well. He's been through a long career. He's extraordinarily wealthy. As Marvin Hagler said, it's hard to get up and run at 5 a.m. when you're wearing silk pajamas, or in his case, Gucci and Versace.
Yeah.
But it does alter the way you are. The hunger does leave people. It's... I just think he had a very, very bad night. And I think Ngannou had a very, very good night. In answer to your question, I think it makes it a 50-50 fight now with Usyk. I don't disagree with you that Usyk might outbox him if he's the fresher guy. But yeah, Fury, it might have also sharpened Fury up for this fight with Usyk as well. He's just had his bad performance. He had that third fight with Wilder that was extraordinary. He was too good for Dillian White. He was far too good for Derek Chisora. And this might have sharpened him up as well. What's your take as a fighter?
Yeah, probably get his fight sort of done. I suppose he's not so happy with himself, maybe, and it makes him get more of this kind of revenge kind of feeling.
Yeah, to get back to being his best.
And if Saudi Arabia was as nice as you said, then obviously, hopefully, he got some energy from the crowd, from all them to kind of love boxing and be training for the next fight, properly and enjoy the training as well and feel good, feel happy, feel strong, and that way you can win fights with great feelings as well. Like you need to have a good camp. Yeah.
I know, but we're shocked though, aren't we, by what happened? We're quite shocked sitting here.
It's like, don't really know
What did we really
say?
Exactly. What did we really see? You know what? And everybody is shocked, and they're still talking about it 5 days later.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about boxing. You have to expect the unexpected. They're still debating it 4 or 5 days later. That's what I love about our sport. Hold it there a moment. We're going to be joined from the United States. We're talking Middle East. We're here in Central Europe. We're going to be joined over the pond from the writer Dan Rafael. Well, Dan, thanks for joining us in your morning from... It's Virginia, isn't it? You're in?
Yes, sir.
Look, Lucy and I have been chatting about the weekend's events. Let me get your thoughts, first of all, on the undercard. Wins for Martin Bakole, Arslanbek Makhmudov, Fabio Wardley, Joseph Parker, and Moses Tauma. Have you got a highlight there?
I guess the highlight was I thought Joseph Parker really was the highlight in terms of just the way he finished the fight. Not that he was, I mean, the Wardley fight, that was a more interesting matchup for the stakes of these two guys between, him and Adelaide, both undefeated, both on the rise. And it was obviously a very big win for Wardley. So that was an impressive knockout. I didn't like the fact that Adelaide put his hands on the referee after the stoppage. That was not called for. But just in terms of like one overall impressive punch or moment, I was a little more struck by the way that Parker was able to finish Simon Keane. It wasn't obviously as meaningful of a fight, and Keane didn't come with the kind of the interest level, I guess, of what that other fight was. But Joseph Parker, he's on a bit of the comeback trail. He had a rough loss against Joe Joyce, and that was a really nice knockout, a good uppercut. And, Joe Parker wanted to show people that he's still a viable guy in the heavyweight division, and he is.
Did the performance of Francis Ngannou and the performance of Tyson Fury shock you?
Yeah, both of them, because Fury was way worse than I could have imagined. And to his credit, Francis Ngannou was much better than I think, not only me, frankly, but anybody. I mean, even the most ardent Ngannou supporter, fan, I don't think they could have expected that level of performance. And I keep hearing he's a fighter. He's not a YouTuber. He's not coming over from, he's not a basketball player. He's not some other sports activity. He is a combat sports person. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine, but it's still a different sport. Yeah, boxing and MMA are different. If they weren't, then all the guys that were doing both of them would do each other in their various sports and have bigger events and make more money and all that business. But he made the decision to come to boxing. It is a different kind of training. There's different things to be involved. And I don't think anybody could possibly have expected that, as tremendous as a fighter as Ngannou is, as a mixed martial artist, that he would come into the boxing ring, the domain of the Gypsy King, and essentially go straight up with him. And to a lot of people, should have been the winner that night, scored a knockdown. I mean, it was everything you didn't expect.
Yeah.
So even though he didn't win the fight, his stock goes up in a big way. And Tyson Fury's, with one of the worst performances of his, at least his recent career anyway, definitely goes down in a big way.
Oh, the optics, there were no doubt the optics were for Ngannou. As I say, when we talk about the eye test, people just watching it and not scoring it, the eye test, the optics, the fight belonged to Ngannou. I mean, Fury was bullied and beaten up in that fight in many ways. Lucy and I were discussing this before you came onto the show. How does it affect your thinking about Tyson Fury against Oleksandr Usyk for the 4 belts now, for the Undisputed title? And what did you think before this about Fury and Usyk? Has it altered your thinking?
Well, look, first of all, I did still think that, as terrible of a performance as it obviously was, I still did think that Tyson Fury was the winner of the fight. I scored the fight 95-94. So, if that's a silver lining. As our good friend Larry Merchant would say, however, it was that Tyson Fury won the fight, Francis Ngannou won the event.
Yeah.
But it's not really have anything to do with what's going to happen and unfold in a fight with Oleksandr Usyk, because my opinion hasn't changed from what I thought beforehand, which was, for different reasons, I can see both fighters winning because of Fury's abilities, which he didn't show at his best, obviously, in the fight with Francis Ngannou. And Oleksandr Usyk is a brilliant technician and is undefeated for a reason, like Fury is, and they're both tremendous fighters. So it didn't really impact my thought process about the fight. And I say that because, Gareth, you couldn't find guys with a more opposite kind of style between Ngannou and Usyk. And what do they always say? Styles make fights, and there's nothing truer in sports, much less boxing, that the style in which you fight is going to have a lot to go towards figuring out how the thing ends up in the end of the fight. So Fury is a totally he's going to be with a totally different kind of opponent. And on top of that, you have to believe whatever Tyson says, that he did not come in the best shape, either mentally or physically. I mean, I was watching on the stream some of that gala dinner they had the night before, and I saw Tyson out and about. I guess Ngannou might have made an appearance there also.
There as well. But Ngannou was there as well, Dan. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Okay, I still find that highly unusual that the night before the fight, that they're out kind of not partying, like doing bad things or staying out too late, but most of the time guys are, they're focusing, they're with their team, they're having a quiet dinner, they're getting a good night's sleep and all that. So I was a little surprised to see that, but I just think that when he fights Usyk, he's going to be in better shape physically. B's going to be in better shape mentally. He knows it's a bigger deal. I think he took this fight like a joke. He's like, well, it's an MMA guy. I'm going to win this fight easily. And he was, he got a rude awakening. So nothing has changed in my mind. And obviously the fact that the fight is not going to take place December 23rd, it'll give Tyson a little bit more time to get ready for the fight. They'll move it back, by a month or so, a month and a half or so into February. And, the only thing that has changed is I think that the general public perception is that it's a lesser fight now because Fury, in their minds, a lot of people's minds, he doesn't deserve to have won the fight against Francis.
Do you think Fury and Ngannou should run it back at some point then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not going to be the next fight, obviously, and I don't know if it'll be the fight after that because whatever happens when Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk fight each other, the winner has the option for a rematch. So that puts that out, puts it out further on the calendar. But yeah, I think absolutely, Fury and Ngannou warrants a rematch, and that's not even including whatever Ngannou may do in the time between that could happen, because obviously he's not going to not fight for the period of time it takes for Fury and Usyk to take care of their business, perhaps twice. So we'll see what he does, whether it goes to the back to the MMA cage and has a fight in mixed martial arts, or he sticks in boxing and tries to find a big fight against some other contender or big name. You've heard all the talk. Eddie Hearn's out there talking about, we want him to fight Anthony Joshua. We're in contact. I've heard the team, the Ngannou manager talk about how they've been in touch with Deontay Wilder about a potential fight in the MMA cage, that Deontay's been training in mixed martial arts for the last few months. So
I don't want Deontay Wilder stepping into an MMA cage. Lucy's been involved in different martial arts. I mean, I see Ngannou and Joshua and Ngannou and Wilder as big heavyweight blockbusters. I really do, because Ngannou's stock has risen so much. But I don't see Wilder getting into an MMA cage, Lucy.
No, probably not. It has to be Ngannou being in the boxing game. I look forward to see him, move forward though. See what's happening next for him actually, because it's a big step to go from MMA into boxing and fight someone being who is top of the world. He's fearless. I like to see how good he can become as a boxer.
Dan, in your view, I mean, I was out there. It was an enormous event. Did you feel the enormity of it through the week and so on, and the different things they were trying to... Obviously, we had an opening ceremony as part of the Riyadh season, so it was something very unusual. It was a very, very big event. It felt as big as anything we've ever been to in Vegas, and you and I have been at some extraordinarily large events, all the way back to Lewis and Tyson, through Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, all these guys. Did it feel enormous from your perspective?
I mean, I did pay attention to some of the pre-fight stuff that was going on. As I mentioned, I took a look at the stream they had of the gala dinner the night before, with some of the interviews that were being done. And it was somewhat, I'm shocked. Not shocking is not the right word, but sort of just kind of cool.
It was mind-blowing when you kept walking. Legends taking selfies with each other that they were shocked they kept meeting each other. That's
what it was. When I'm looking on Twitter and I'm seeing the post of, for example, Joe Calzaghe and Ricky Hatton are flying into Riyadh together, and then you see the photos once guys are there, and you just see this random accumulation of tremendous, great Hall of Fame fighters, along with the current day fighters. And like you said, and they're posting on their social media pictures with each other, just these random, groups. On one picture you see Lennox Lewis, and then you see, Prince Nassim Hamed and Oscar De La Hoya, and just one great after another, Michael Spinks and Larry Holmes. I mean, you just go on and on, because that they did was they had, the greatest, living fighters from the year when I was growing up in boxing in like the late 70s, in the 80s, all the way through the guys I've covered their career. So that was what made it feel like a big event to me. Not so much watching just the pay-per-view broadcast, which, of course, they highlighted some of the folks that were there, that the Riyadh Seasons people, they did a big event. They brought these folks in, they dressed it up, they made it into like a really huge deal, and, good for them. They put a big stamp on, I guess, what they want to continue to do in the sport of boxing, and turn that part of the world into a hotbed for the sport, and do it in a way that we've seen it for many years in other places, like one time Atlantic City, obviously Las Vegas, the big fights in New York, certainly places in the UK. And so, good. It's always good if there's another player in the business.
Absolutely. And I think we need to congratulate His Excellency Turki Alalshikh and his team, for the minister for creating this kind of event. It's interesting with this move, Lucy. As Dan says, Atlantic City, Las Vegas, stadiums in the UK to a certain extent with Fury and Joshua here over the last few years. I know Dan loved coming over here and he was mobbed by British boxing fans when he came over. We'll never forget it.
That was fun. Yeah. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Hopefully women's boxing will get this kind of feel and sensibility as it grows as well.
Oh, it will. It's just time.
Matter of time. Yeah. And eyes on it. Yeah. Quickly, very quick one on this, and I want your view on it, Dan, as well. Should we move to 12 2-minute rounds or 12 3-minute rounds?
For the women, it's a tough question, right? It's fitness-wise, I think we all can do it. I think like you train for 12 rounds, you can do 12 rounds. It's that's easy. But it has to be like, if rounds going up, minutes going up, or the money is going up.
Well, I don't agree with that, but it's not about the money. I'm more concerned about women going from championship fights to 20 minutes, suddenly to 36 minutes. I think that's an enormous, yes, the money should go up, but maybe undercard fighters say that as well. But I don't disagree with you on it, but I think it's more about is the right thing to have 12 twos or 12 threes?
I mean, I also do think if you stay with 2 minutes, then it'd be more exciting. Like
I agree with you.
And for that reason, I'd say 2 minutes. I've always said 2 minutes.
12 twos then.
12 twos or 10 twos. Stick with 10 twos and make it super exciting. Great boxing for 20 minutes. I mean,
it is normally exciting for 20 minutes.
Yeah, because you don't want to get this into any sloppy and nothing happening, and then because you want to make the audience interested and put on great shows, and even get slots for the boxers to be on the show as well. You only have like 6 or 7 hours boxing in the evening. I don't know.
Well, a final one for you, Dan. I'm not going to ask you about that. I'm going to ask you about rounds on Saturday night. Fury and Ngannou was 10 3-minute rounds. In your view, what would have happened if it had gone 12 rounds?
That's a good question. I mean, the fact is, I had Fury winning by 1 point, and the reason he was able to win on my scorecard 95-94 is because I had given him rounds 9 and 10. So he obviously was coming on later in the fight, and as tremendous of a job as Ngannou had done, I do feel like he was starting to slow down a little bit more than Fury was. And I got to believe that over the last 2 rounds that Fury would have still figured out a way to win at least one more of those rounds and win the fight. But it was close. And it was a much more worthy fight than I would have anticipated. I'll put it like that.
Lucy, if it had gone 12 rounds?
I'm with
you with Dan. I am as well. I think Ngannou gave us all for 10 rounds. You've given your all for the last 20 minutes, Mr. Dan Rafael. It's great to see you as always. Thank you for teasing me, as you always do, on air and off air. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks for joining us on the Battle of the Baddest podcast, looking back on the opening of the Riyadh season with Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou. Cheers.
Always my pleasure, Gareth. Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers. Well, Lucy, look forward to you. Well, Lucy, we look forward to you facing Sky Nicholson in Dublin in November. Stay well. It's only 3 weeks away. What are you going to do? What's the outcome? You're going to stop her? You're going to beat her on points?
Stop her. Points doesn't matter. I just need to win the fight.
Just after the W.
It's all about the belt. This fight,
Absolutely, all about the interim WBC title, isn't it? Best of luck. You look fantastic. You look fit. Go well. Be safe. Bring the belt home.
I will.
Thanks for joining. Well, joining us now, Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren's broken away from another important lunch he's having. Frank, as the dust settles on the event, just tell us how Tyson Fury is 4 or 5 days later.
Well, I spoke with him yesterday, and he's in very good spirits. He said on to the next fight. That's out of the way as far as he's concerned. He's a very positive person, and he just wants to get in the ring now with Usyk.
And when do you see that taking place? Is that going to move into next year now?
Say that again?
And do you believe that will happen next year now for the Undisputed?
Yes, 100%. 100% it will happen.
And just tell me, what do you think happened to Tyson Fury on the night? It wasn't the Tyson Fury we're used to seeing. Ngannou had his greatest night, obviously. Do you think there was an element of Tyson not knowing what he was going to be up against in some senses?
Well, Tyson, I don't think Tyson was his normal self, but he'd done what he had to do, which was to win. And I thought he won the fight against a very gallant Ngannou. What the problem you had going into that fight was the perception for everybody that it was going to be a very short fight and that this guy was nothing. They didn't take into consideration that he was the best of his discipline. He was undefeated, the undefeated champion of UFC, of heavyweight UFC. And also, which everybody forgets about, there's no footage of him anywhere boxing. So until that first bell, Tyson didn't know what what the guy would be like with his face. And he shapes up well. And he boxed well. But it was one of those things. But at the end of the day, Tyson won the fight. He's not a machine. Sometimes you're not your best at all times. He's not a machine, but he won that fight. And now we're on to the big fight that everybody wants to see.
Finally, Frank, as the dust settles on an extraordinary week in Riyadh for the opening of the Riyadh season, yourself, Queensberry, Bob Arum and Top Rank, working with His Excellency, the Minister, Turki Alalshikh. A huge event for you, one of the biggest events you've ever been involved in?
Oh, it was a massive event. It was absolutely brilliant. It's one of the best events I've ever been involved with. It turned out at the end of the day, the fight was absorbing. The main fight was absorbing. Tyson and Ngannou put on a tremendous spectacle. The whole event, as an event, I've never been involved in anything like it. From start to finish, the opening ceremony was just brilliant. The undercard was fabulous. The whole week was great. They treated us all so well. They looked after everybody there. Every fighter was treated like it was a main event. It was just the most marvelous occasion for me, and it was a privilege to be there.
Frank, thank you so much for joining us. It's a privilege to have you on the final episode of Battle of the Baddest. Thank you so much.
And just want to thank His Excellency, the Doctor, and all the team for all what they did for us to make this event such a successful one.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome. Bye.
Well, that's it for the Battle of the Baddest series. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to all my guests and the entire staff at the event, which opened the Riyadh season, for making it an extraordinary success. As they say in boxing, always expect the unexpected. And that's what we got when the Battle of the Baddest eventually happened between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. Maybe, in the end, they were both winners.